So I came in this weekend to record and my tablet decided to quit working on me. The next video I recorded out of order, so you'll see my face in the next video, but for the rest of the try, probably, I don't think that I'll be able to use that tablet to record, so we'll have to go back to the old way for now. But I'm working on figuring out how to get a fixed tablet. Alright, the first learning target we're taking a look at for this next section is dividing. So there's two methods of dividing polynomials. One is long division. So if you think back to when you were in grade school and you learned how to long divide, it's a very similar process with polynomials. So that's the topic for our first video. In the second video, you'll see kind of a shortcut called synthetic division. Alright, setting up our long division, we put what we are dividing into under the bar. And if there are any terms that are missing, it's helpful to put a 0 in that placeholder. So for example, we've got x cubed, x squared, x, and then the constant. There aren't any terms that are missing. If we had 4x cubed minus 11x plus 5, we would be missing that x squared term, so it would be helpful to put a 0x squared there. And then what we're dividing by goes on the outside. What you look at is the first term, the 4x, how many times does that go into 4x cubed? Or 4x times what gives you 4x cubed? That answer is x squared. So then we multiply x squared by the whole 4x plus 5. So x squared times 4x is 4x cubed. And x squared times 5 is positive 5x squared. Now here's where students tend to make a mistake. Remember, you are subtracting. Think again to that long division back in grade school. After you multiply, you would subtract. I'm going to physically show my subtraction so that I don't lose track of those negative signs. So my first terms cancel. Negative 7x squared minus 5x squared is negative 12x squared. Bring down the negative 11x and then repeat that process. 4x goes into negative 12x squared how many times? Or 4x times negative 3x equals the negative 12x squared. So again, distributing this to both terms, I get negative 12x squared minus 15x. Again, I'm going to subtract, so I'm going to change the signs on both terms. First term cancels, negative 11x plus 15x gives me 4x. Bring down the 5, and 4x plus 5 goes into itself once. So in this case, we don't have a remainder. So the quotient is x squared minus 3x plus 1. We're going to look at two more examples of long division, just because it's a little bit more challenging. Again, what we are dividing into goes inside the box. And this time we're missing two terms. We're missing an x squared term and an x term. So I'm going to put those zeros as placeholders. What we're dividing by goes outside. All right, so starting by x times what gives me x cubed? The answer is x squared. Multiplying both. Make sure you distribute that x squared to both terms. And then we have to subtract. So change the signs. X cubed minus x cubed cancels. 0x squared plus x squared gives us an x squared. Bring down your 0x. X times x gives us the x squared. So now I'm going to multiply. The x times x is x squared. Again, I'm distributing this to both terms here. Minus x. Subtracting, so change your signs. Our first terms cancel and we get 0x plus x is x. Bring down the negative 1, and same thing, x minus 1 goes into itself one time, so we don't have a remainder on this one. Let me rewrite this a little bit differently, just so you can see what exactly we're doing. What we could say is x minus 1 times the answer, the quotient, equals what we divided into. And if you remember how to factor in difference of cubes, this should look familiar. Last example for the long division, this time we've got something even a bit more complicated. We're dividing by a trinomial. Set it up the same way. we're dividing into goes inside the box, and we're not missing any terms on this one. We've got 4, 3, 2, 1 down to our constant. And then we are dividing by x squared plus 2x minus 3. So you start by looking at the first term. X squared times what gives you 2x to the fourth, and that would be 2x squared. Make sure you distribute that to all three terms. 2x squared times x squared is 2x to the fourth. 2x squared times 2x is 4x cubed. And 2x squared times negative 3 is negative 6x squared. Subtract, change the signs on all three terms. Our first two terms cancel, and we get negative 5x squared plus 6x squared is 1x squared. And this time, because we're dividing by a trinomial, we're going to bring down two more terms. X squared times 1 gives us x squared. So now I'm going to distribute this to all three terms, and we get x squared plus 2x minus 3. So when we change the signs and subtract, the first term cancels, but this time we have 3x minus 2x is x, and negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. This is our remainder. So if you think back, again, to grade school, before you learned how to work with fractions, you would just say r, x plus 1. After you learned how to work with fractions, you would say, in this case, our quotient is 2x squared plus 1 plus the remainder is your numerator, and what you divided by is your denominator.